I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Now, today we're reading from the book of Colossians, chapter 3, and let's focus on verses 5 through 7. Therefore, put to death whatever in you is worldly: sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desire, and greed, which is idolatry. Because of these, God's wrath comes on the disobedient. And you once walked in these things when you were living in them. Now, when I was young, my parents used to frequent a Chinese restaurant. And behind the cash register at this establishment, there were several ornate boxes containing what I thought were some kind of Chinese action figures. And they were posed amidst a constant fog of incense smoke. And I recall as a child asking the Chinese cashier about the figurines, and she told me they were their family gods. And for years, that conversation formed my opinion of idolatry. And my understanding was that an idol was a carving or some kind of picture that people prayed to and they burned incense to. In return for the worship, I suppose, then the idol would somehow bless the person that was worshiping it. And it all seemed kind of silly to me. I mean, some of these things were plastic. I was thankful that I didn't grow up in a culture that worshiped idols. Wow. Fast forward several years later, I'm in my 20s, deep into the music business, and I remember standing at a department store merchandise counter, armful of clothes that I was convinced would look really cool on stage. Of course, you can't look dorky when you're on stage, right? The cashier zipped my credit card and discreetly informed me that my card was declined. And then we tried it about 20 other times. Surely there's something wrong with the magnetic strip. I got to tell you, it's embarrassing. If you've ever had it happen, you know. And when I called the card company later, I was astonished at how much debt that I had accumulated in a short amount of time. And that's when I realized that I was an idolater. Wasn't following some foreign established religion. I had gotten myself into debt because of my idolatry. And here's what I mean. I had bought into a lifestyle or into an image, which I then pursued beyond godly financial accountability. I wasn't satisfied with God's provision. I wanted things that He had not given me money for, and so I sold myself into bondage to credit card companies, all to acquire their advertised image. If you have this, people will like you more. They'll buy your records, is what I'm thinking. They'll buy more tickets to your concerts. It's a stupid thing to think, and yet, I thought it. I had bestowed power and worship to an image to provide success and preserve my lifestyle. Power and worship that belong solely to God. And whenever I felt God was inadequately showing up for me, I just trusted in the image, to grant me what God had denied me. And that's how I got into credit trouble as a young man. Now, Paul tells us that God's wrath comes because of our idolatry. And maybe you have never worshiped carved stone and wooden idols, but nevertheless, the Bible says that we all once walked in idolatrous ways. And in some ways, perhaps we still flirt with those former idols on occasion. But there is hope for all who choose to turn from their idolatry and to walk with the Lord through placing their faith and their trust in Jesus. However, when we reject His ways, we open ourselves up to His certain rod of correction and the wrath of His punishment. So what do you want? Would you rather walk with the Lord and let Him provide for you and let His Spirit go before you in power and in influence? Or would you rather just, say, you know what, I'm sick of you taking the wheel, Jesus, let me have the wheel, and then it turns into a big, massive car wreck? I don't know about you, but if it's living and dying, blessing or cursing, I'm choosing life. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Groundworks Ministries operates entirely through financial donations from faithful people just like you. You may be wondering, should I support Groundworks Ministries? Well, yes, you should. We need your monthly support. Donating is secure and is easy at groundworksministries.com. Another way to help? Just tell people about Groundworks Ministries. You can share our podcast with your friends and family. Share them on your social media. And of course, you can always direct folks to our website, groundworksministries.com.